Sales slumps can happen to even the best salespeople. It's happened to me, and yes, they suck, but there's a way out. Here's why they happen and a few tricks to get you back on your winning streak. Let's talk not only about the people that are new, but then what happens when you think you have it figured out and then you hit a slump, right? Yeah. What do you think the biggest factor is in somebody hitting a sales slump? I think that I think it's from you stop growing.
Yeah.
I mean, you kind of get, it's kind of like, you're used to the speed of the motorcycle, so you don't really respect it as much kind of deal. Right?
And it comes down to you start feeling yourself too much, right? And so you think you're good, you got it, cool, I'm all good now, right? So because I did it twice, it's just I'm Mr. Automatic. Well, that's not the case because you haven't mastered anything yet. You just, let's call it you did well twice.
You did well twice.
Right? So do well 3 times, do well 4 times. And then once you've done it continuously, you now create a habit. And now you can be that. But that's what it comes down to.
Even when you get to that level, there's still like areas where you can like tweak to perfect everything.
Yeah.
That just still makes huge difference when you're sitting in a sales meeting or being on a call or whatever it is.
Well, then you get back to the fundamentals.
You have to, right? That was what I was going to ask you. Is like, so now you're in the sales slump. How do you overcome the sales slump?
Well, it's fundamentals, right? It's why, in my opinion, I think you should continuously train the fundamentals day in and day out, right? It's the same thing. When a hitter goes and starts spring training, he starts on a tee. He doesn't start against Chris Sale, the best pitcher in the league, right? He starts on a tee, and he works his way up into soft toss, and then works the L screen, and then he goes into BP, and that's it.
Yeah, I had who was I think it was Tony Robbins was telling a story. I might have mentioned this to you that he started practicing kung fu. I think he was kung fu, I think, and he was training with one of the best kung fu masters in the United States.
Right, and
I kept asking him, what is it going to take to be a black belt? And there's really 7 fundamental moves of kung fu that if you master, you're a black belt in kung fu.
Right.
And he would say that students would always come in and say, "Can I learn something new? Can I learn something new?" And he'd always say, "No, you don't need to learn anything new. You need to master the 7 fundamentals of this, and that's going to make you a black belt."
Yeah.
And it's funny, like even if you look at our process from like the cold call to the needs analysis,
right, and
to the demo and to close, right? Like if you just chunk each one of those up and you can master each one of those, you're a top sales rep.
That's it. It really is simple. Like whether it's our sales process or somebody else's, you got to look at it and say, how can I simplify this even further?
Yeah.
The more you can simplify, the easier it is. We confuse ourselves when we get in slumps because then, one, we don't look at the fundamentals. We then look at it and go, okay, now I'm bad. Now
you think you're doing the fundamentals.
Yeah, and then you go back and realize you're not doing it, but at the same time, you start looking at everything else other than the fundamentals, and now you've just overcomplicated everything.
Yeah, I remember struggling, and it seemed like 2 years, but I think it was like 2 months or 2 weeks that I kept getting the objection, I want to think about it. What I noticed on the calls that I got, I want to think about it. Oh, I was just forgetting to tell the Townsquare story.
Something simple.
So they're like, well, I don't really know this company, so let me go check them out.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I want to think about it. And I'm like, what? What are you trying to think about?
Yeah.
Right? So if we skip steps, which is easy to do once we've got our flow and we're used to being, in front of somebody or on the phone or whatever it is in your sales job, when you get too comfortable, if you skip steps, you're gonna get yourself in a situation where you could hit a slump.
You have to be in a constant state of self-evaluation, right? Not a constant state of self-criticism, right? Because the criticism, you got enough people criticizing you, right? So if you criticize yourself, you're just gonna beat yourself up and tell yourself you can't do it. If you are in a constant state of self-evaluation, now you can look at, all right, what is the core process, and am I executing it? It's really, really simple.
And whenever we're in a situation where we're not feeling that good about our performance, that's when we tend to beat ourselves up and question ourselves, even if we're like the most confident person in the world, right? So what I would start to do, and what I always suggested to people that were on the team or whatever, is go do something for someone else.
Yeah.
Like stop focusing on you.
Go coach somebody.
Go coach somebody else. Right. And I think even
100%.
you taught me that.
Yeah.
And it's like, all right, I'm going to stop worrying about why I'm sucking right now. And I'm going to go over here and pat someone else on the back or give someone else a high five or tell someone else they sound good on the phone or teach somebody else something else.
Yeah.
Completely take it out of my own head and get yourself into a different vibration or whatever.
And the reason we don't do that is because we don't think we are valuable anymore.
Right.
Because we're struggling. So we think that ourselves, we've told ourselves, well, I suck. So I have no right to tell anybody else who's sucking why they shouldn't suck.
Right. They're going to be like, well, you haven't sold anything yet this month.
But the reality is you have value. You know the process. So when you take yourself out of your own shoes and you now go coach somebody else, what you end up doing is you end up teaching the fundamentals. And the best way to learn is to teach somebody else. Yeah.
Teach somebody else, pat somebody else on the back, all that stuff. Like just that like energy.
Yeah.
Just to get and change your patterns. Like we get into these like little take a different walk to work or something.
Yeah.
Like it could be anything.
Eat
really.
a different breakfast.
I used to move all around the office. Tim would be like, "Where are you sitting? Why are you sitting over here today?" I'm like, I'm not really feeling it over there,
right?
man. I needed
the vibe's good over here.
Spot. Yeah, and then I'd be moving back. I need to move back over here. If you enjoyed this week's episode, like the video and leave your comments for us below. If there's anything you want us to talk about, leave that in the comments as well. For weekly tips on how to progress your career, be sure to subscribe to our channel, and we'll see you next week.